You know, for a time there, Fujifilm was following a pretty predictable and wonderful, I might add, formula. Release a flagship camera and then follow it up with a smaller, cheaper alternative for like the rest of us. This happened with the Fujifilm X-T1, which was later followed by a smaller and cheaper X-T10. The powerful and lovable X-T2 was followed by my besties in the whole world, the Fujifilm X-T20, and, as you predicted, the X-T30 ended up being the X-T3's little buddy. Now, the same kind of thing was done with the X Pro line, with each X Pro camera being followed up by an XE camera, like this really cool looking XE2. Now, the rules for this formula were pretty simple. The smaller camera had to have the same sensor as Big Mama, but it had to have a couple of little things that wouldn't hurt the sales of the flagship camera. Some trade-offs. Like an annoying 2.5mm headphone jack that needed an adapter that you always lost. Instead of dual card slots, let's make a single card slot and put it where crooks can't find the SD card. No teeny tiny ISO dial was brought over. Some of the cameras were assembled in China, not Japan, if you care about that sort of thing. No super cool vertical flipperoonie, which is very useful when you're shooting in portrait mode. A slower max shutter speed, but we were okay with all that because we had the same sensor in a smaller, cheapable, lovable package. Now, there was some confusing things along the way, like for example, the follow-up X-T20, the little one, received touch functionality, where the bigger brother, the X-T2, didn't have touch, no matter how many times you keep trying. And then something interesting started to happen with the X-T30. I think Fujifilm realized that an X-T3 Junior, the X-T30, would have been really good. So, sadly, they removed some features. For example, the super useful directional pad was gone. They decided to place the Q menu in a location where you kind of bumped it about 8 times a day. They later released a firmware that lets you disable this button, by the way. Now with the X-T2 and X-T20, they shared the same viewfinder, but this time the X-T3's viewfinder was just a little too good and didn't trickle down. And for any young aspiring filmmakers hoping to pick up this budget little movie maker, 4K was limited to 10 minutes. And then the X-T4 was released, a great upgrade. For starters, Fujifilm added image stabilization to the body, which meant all the lenses in Fuji's lineup, like the 35mm f2 and the 16mm 1.4, could now be shot handheld. To make it more video friendly, a fully articulated screen was added, a simple movie to photo toggle switch. There was a brand new battery, which meant you didn't have to carry 6 of these with you. So if we have an X-T4, logic says we should have a follow-up X-T40, which we have not gotten. Instead, we got something called the XS10. It has the same sensor as that big brother X-T4, more like a big cousin. And the XS10 is a great camera. It has actually image stabilization built in. It has a flip out screen. It has all the film simulations that the X-T4 has. It's really great in auto mode. I enjoyed this camera immensely. It even received a 3.5mm headphone jack. Go figure. But it lacked one little thing that Fujifilm fans have grown to love. The charm and aesthetic, the dials, the buttons, the film camera sort of look. Which is why the X-T40 would have been just way too good. So we could dream, right? What would an X-T40 look like? So maybe it would have image stabilization, just like the X-T4, have the fully articulating screen. It would include all the same film simulations without a firmware update. It would shoot 4K 30, which we're okay with. And, you know, give us the same EVF. That's okay. We don't need the upgraded one. All we know is that we would have a perfect little hybrid street camera where we can shoot video and photo. For the time being, I'll continue to record my shaky clips on my non-IBIS Fujifilm cameras, using mostly the 18-55, which has image stabilization, and I've been using the Sony ZV-1 for vlogging and shooting handheld video. It's a great little camera in a small package. In the end, we don't really need an X-T40, although it would be nice. The question is, will it ever come? I just think it would be way too good.